So Baal Shem Tov teaches this week's parsha, and Parshas Yisro is a teaching from the Baal Shem that's brought down in Kedushas Levi, and it's brought down in the Alter Rebbe in the Siddur. With regards to the Kavanah, the intention of when a person immerses himself into the Mikvah. Because this week's parsha talks about Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, and we know that when the Torah was given, it says that to be scotched, they had to sanctify themselves. So they immersed themselves in a mikvah before Matan Torah. Like it says, there was a stream that came out of Sinai, that flowed from Sinai, and therefore they immersed themselves in the waters of that stream before. That's the laws also of a ger, a convert, that has to accept the Torah and also go through the mikvah. Shachal Torah says that they immerse themselves in the Nar Dinar, in the mikvah of fire, but simply they immerse themselves in the mikvah. What is the intention? What a person should have, very bekitzer, very shortly, what is the intention a person should have when they go into the mikvah? So Baal Shem teaches that the mikvah has 3 dimensions. That the 3 dimensions of the mikvah is the floor of the mikvah, the 4 walls, which means the water of the mikvah, and then there's the gag, the ceiling of the mikvah, which means where you emerge from. So again, so there's the floor, the actual place that you're standing. You're immersed in a mikvah, so there's a place that you're standing. Then there's the waters that's surrounding you, and then there's the roof of the mikvah, so to speak, of the waters, where your head emerges from. We know from the Kesef Mishnah, we know that it's brought down by many poskim, many commentators write that the tahara, the purity of a person, actually occurs when they're emerging outside the mikvah. When they're leaving the mikvah, that's when the purity occurs. So now the Baal Shem Tov teaches like this, that there are 3 divine names that are connected to the mikvah. The name Eheka, Aleph He Yud He, which also is brought down in the teachings of the Arizal, connected to Shem Eka. The fullness of Shem Eka is the same numeric value as the word mikvah and kas, etc. So Eka means I will be, the name Aleph He Yud He. That's the ceiling of the mikvah. Then there's the Dal Rucha Shel Mikvah, the 4 sides of the mikvah, which is the water of the mikvah, corresponds to the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And then there's a Karka mikvah. The actual ground of the mikvah is connected to the name of Aleph Dalet Nun Yud Shem Adnai. What does this mean? It means like this. What's the reason why a person immerses himself into a mikvah? A person immerses himself into a mikvah is because a person experiences some form of tumah, or because a person is changing their status. But the idea of tumah, what is tumah? Tumah comes from the word sasim, something that's stuck, something that's congealed, something that's blocked. Tahara, Torah, comes from the word tsoyer, which means brilliant. Ke'etzem hashamayim l'Torah, something that's transparent, that's flowing, that's easy. Tumah comes from things that are stuck. Anything that's form of death, that's why tumah is always connected to death, which is endings and blockages and anger. Anything that's connected to that type of energy is connected to tumah. A person that experiences tumah wants to experience tahara now, wants to become free-flowing, wants to become open. So what does a person do? The first thing you do is they step into the ground of the mikvah. When you step into the ground of the mikvah, you put your feet on the floor. Putting your feet on the floor is the name Adonai, Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. What is that name? That name of Hashem. That name of Hashem is connected to the presence of Hashem, the way it's revealed into this world. That name is the ground, that's the floor of your being, that's where you're standing, and that's a recognition of an acceptance of who you are right at this present moment. What's the situation, who am I at this present moment, and what are the issues that I'm dealing with right at this present moment? And a full hachna, a full submission to the reality of who I am. I'm an angry person, I'm a tummy person, I'm impure. This is the reality of who I am. I own it. I own my thoughts, I own my feelings, I own my sensations. This is the person that I am. That's the first level. I put my feet on the ground. The second perspective is you look around and you sense that the water is surrounding you. What is the idea of the water surrounding you? The water surrounding a person The difference between water is something that doesn't have form on its own. Water represents something that's infinite, something that doesn't have its particular form. When we're standing in the mikvah, we're surrounded by the water. That represents our infinite potential. So you're letting go of the first step is I own these things. This is who I am. The second thing is these are not me. These are my thoughts. These are my feelings. These are my experiences. But I am not my thoughts. I am not my feelings. I am not my experiences. I'm ayin. I'm empty of all these things. That's Havdalah. That's a separation. That's the Yud Kei Vav Kei of that element. The third step is, it's not enough to let go. It's not enough to own and then to let go. But the third element is you have to emerge. You have to define yourself. What's the new identity? What's the Shem Eka? What's the name of becoming? Who am I becoming? So I entered in one state, and this is the person that I am. I let go of all these things, and now who am I becoming? And who am I becoming to assume a new tzur, a new form? That's when the purity occurs. When I'm actually leaving the cusp of that space, and I'm exiting from that place, that's when I actually experience the purity. And that's the three sacred names that we have when a person immerses. The first one is the name that I exist. Who am I right this present moment? The second one is who is my potential, because I'm infinite and I have infinite potential. I have these thoughts and I have these feelings, and maybe I'm angry, but I am not anger and I am not these feelings, and I let go of that. I'm like the water space that doesn't have form. And then the question is, how am I emerging out of this space in a healthy and wholesome way? That's the sweetening process. So there's the achna, which is the humility, the humbling, the submission, which is the place that I'm standing on. Then there's a separation, which is the space that I'm within. And then there's a place that I'm emerging into, which is the sweetening of the self in a higher form, in a higher dimension, in a higher wholesome self. And these are the three basic meditations, basic intentions that a person has to have as they're entering and leaving this space.